welcome to another rap video. Today we're looking at Revelation, and I know that Revelation, it's the last book in the Bible, and it can be one of the most confusing ones. When you first read it, it's so confusing. Nobody really knows what's going on. It's all visions and beasts and fire, and all these things are happening. It's a bit confusing. But it's a really great book to study, and actually when you understand what it's about, it's really helpful. And I think the one thing we need to remember when looking at Revelation is that it's all about, it's a guarantee of what's going to happen. Jesus wants the church to be comforted by the knowledge of how things are going to end. So it's always worth remembering as you go through Revelation that the book is written to a group of 7 churches. In chapters 2 and 3, Jesus speaks to them directly and tells them what is good, what is bad about them, and what they need to do and what's going to happen. And he's writing this, gives John this vision in order to comfort them and help them in the persecution they face, or the false teachers they have to deal with, or the struggles they have as an actual church in their own hearts. So today we're just going to jump straight to the end. We're going to read Revelation 21, verses 1 to 8. So let me just read those now. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them, and be their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain. For the old order of things has passed away." He who was seated on the throne said, "I am making everything new." Then he said, "Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true." He said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give water without cost from the spring of the water of life. Those who are victorious will inherit all this, and I will be their God, and they will be my children. But the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those who practice magic arts, the idolaters, and all liars, they will be consigned to the fiery lake of burning sulfur. This is the second death." So just before this section, we've read all about the worldly powers being judged and thrown into the fiery pit, is how it describes it. Evil has been defeated, and everyone has been judged. It says they've been judged according to what they've done. So the only people, you've been judged according to what they've done, or if their name is in the book of life. And our name is in the book of life if we trust in Jesus, so that when God judges us, they see him. So now we see what comes next. Evil has been defeated, judgment has come, and Revelation 21 is the next step. It's amazing. It's unbelievable, really. When we read how good this sounds, it's almost hard to comprehend. There'll be no suffering, no tears, no pain. When we look around us today, that almost seems wrong. How can there ever be a world where there's no pain or death or suffering? Every day in the news these days is another story of something bad happening. You can look at what's happening in America just now with the riots, and even just with coronavirus, even just being locked out of our own house. How can there ever be a time when we're not suffering? How can there ever be a time when no one in the world will cry ever again? It's overwhelming how bad things look just now. But that's what Revelation has been written for. Revelation has been written to open our eyes to the things we can't see or just don't make sense with the world around us. Jesus is telling us through this book that everything is going to be okay. It's going to be more than okay. Just because we can't see it now doesn't make it true, or doesn't make it not true. We look at the 7 churches and what they're going through. The 7 churches at the beginning are dealing with so much. They're dealing with people persecuting them. They're dealing with fractures in their church. They're dealing with people believing the wrong thing. They're dealing with people not actually living out the gospel. So Jesus sends this whole vision for them, to comfort them, to kick them up the butt, to make them realize what they're doing wrong. And in every single one of those visions, Jesus explains what's going to happen to those who are victorious. And we see that line again in verse 7, don't we? Those who are victorious will inherit all this, and I will be their gods, and they will be my children. We are only victorious because of what Jesus has done, but we are victorious with him. And when that happens, we get to inherit this beautiful, perfect world. And we get to be called God's children. That's followed up the little warning, isn't it? All these bad people, the cowardly, the unbelieving, so on and so forth, they will be consigned to the lake of fire. That's just a little poke, isn't it? It's a little bit being like, oh yeah, we do not want to be on the wrong side of this. If your option is the new heaven and the new earth, perfection, everything restored, or the fiery lake, I think it's obvious what we're going to want to choose. So we're going to avoid those things. We don't want to be any of those bad things. We want to be with Jesus, united with him. I think one of the most amazing parts of this is that it's in verse 3. Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. Finally, as we reach the end of the Bible, things have come back to the way they were meant to be. God has dealt with the sin problem. He's dealt with our hardened hearts. And once again, just like in Genesis 3, or Genesis 2 in the beginning, we are living in a place where God dwells with us. How wonderful is that?